Hello everyone, and welcome to another Threadbare review. Today we're continuing our look at psychological alien works with a request by patron Joe Cool. Joe has requested the movie called The Thing, released in 1982, and I have to say that if any movie besides Alien has influenced the game Prey, it would have to be The Thing. So how about we get started? The story about the story. John Carpenter. I've previously reviewed 3 of his works. They Live for the original Deus Ex series, Big Trouble in Little China for my Sleeping Dogs LP, and Christine for my The Crew 2 series. But Deus Ex was years ago, YouTube has taken down half the Sleeping Dogs videos, and nobody watched The Crew 2 LP, so let me give you a quick refresher. John Carpenter was one of the most influential directors of the 70s and 80s, although his movies were frequently underrated when they came out and only developed a following years later. Still, he did get fame and recognition for some of his movies, such as Halloween and Escape from New York, but today's movie is one of those overlooked films. The Thing began as a novella written by John Campbell, one of the biggest figures in the golden age of science fiction. This is mostly because he was an influential editor of one of the biggest sci-fi magazines, Astounding Science Fiction. This influence was for better and for worse. Isaac Asimov has said that he wanted to write about aliens who were equal to or better than humans, but John Campbell wouldn't have it. He insisted that humans be superior to aliens in at least one important way, a viewpoint which may have some connection to his slavery apologism and support of segregation. Thus, Asimov's Foundation series features a galaxy populated only by humans as a way to get around Campbell's views. In 1938, Campbell published the novella called Who Goes There in Astounding. The first film adaptation came out in 1951, titled The Thing from Another World, but between special effects limitations and the Hollywood production code, almost the whole story wound up rewritten. Because of this, 2 producers, David Foster and Lawrence Terman, decided in the 1970s that they wanted to make a more faithful adaptation of Campbell's work. The 2 men pitched the idea to Universal Pictures, who gathered up the filming rights and started looking for a director. John Carpenter was an early choice, but he wasn't successful yet, so they passed him up. So The Thing fell into development hell. But then, in 1978, Carpenter got his big break with Halloween, and in 1979, Alien became a huge success, and so the project revived. Universal eventually got Bill Lancaster to write the screenplay. Lancaster dabbled in acting thanks to his famous father Burt Lancaster, and he also wrote the screenplay for the original Bad News Bears. Lancaster stuck with the original story for the most part, but he also condensed the characters, added more action scenes, and gave the characters individual personalities. The original work was a Golden Age story after all, and back then personalities were optional. Lancaster also came up with a bleak ending, since in Who Goes There, the humans win decisively. The cast of The Thing includes a few recognizable names, although some of them are only recognizable today. Carpenter had worked with the star Kurt Russell before during Escape from New York, but The Thing would be actor Keith David's first major film role, and he had to learn on set how to tone down his stage acting presence. Wilford Brimley had had minor roles in Western films and TV shows for years, but his first major role was in The China Syndrome, which came out just 3 years before The Thing. Brimley wouldn't hit the big time until 1985 with Cocoon. Filming for The Thing was difficult for several reasons. Exterior shots were filmed on location in northern Alaska and Canada, and interior shots were filmed in a Hollywood studio that was retrofitted with dozens of air conditioners to bring the temperature down past the freezing point. The film also used a lot of special effects, which were not cheap. Then there was an argument right up until the end between Carpenter and the studio over what sort of ending to use. Thanks to all the costs, The Thing's budget would end up being $15 million, and the film only got back $19.6 million from the North American box office. Part of the problem was that E.T. came out just 2 weeks earlier and featured a much more friendly alien. But also, The Thing was R-rated. Plus, it was absolutely torn apart by the critics, who had also hated Alien for being both science fiction and horror. Something else the critics hated was the nihilistic tone of the movie, and to be fair, it is definitely bleak. But, like I said, the movie built up an audience over time, and today, The Thing is regarded as one of John Carpenter's best and most influential works. The review. A Norwegian expedition to Antarctica discovers a buried spaceship, but when they dig it out and defrost an alien, the alien starts devouring and assimilating the expedition members. Eventually, 2 survivors take a helicopter to try and shoot a sled dog that the thing assimilated, but it gets to an American expedition site, and the Norwegians die when they try shooting at the Americans. That's how the movie starts. After the start, the thing starts infecting and assimilating the American crew, and one by one they die either before or after being infected. Eventually, the Americans put MacReady, the helicopter pilot, in charge, since he has a level head and is under the least suspicion. And after several more deaths, he realizes that every part of the thing acts independently and will try to defend itself, including drops of blood on a petri dish. Performing this test lets them discover one hidden thing, but another one has been busy building an escape ship and destroys the base's generator when it gets caught. So MacReady and the surviving humans blow up the base, and MacReady personally explodes the largest thing biomass. In the end, it's down to him and one other survivor, Childs, sitting in the burning ruins of the base. Neither one can trust the other to be human even now, but they're both exhausted and about to freeze regardless, so MacReady says, "Why don't we just wait here for a little while, see what happens?" And then the movie ends. First off, the pacing of this movie is fantastic. It starts off with the Norwegians shooting at the dog, and you just know something's wrong with that dog, especially after the Americans start exploring the Norwegians' burned-out base and dig site. But the movie doesn't show a living thing until half an hour into the movie, and the first American doesn't die until around 15 minutes later. After that, the deaths are spaced closer and closer together so that each death can still surprise the audience instead of having them come at predictable intervals. Something else the movie does well is jump scares. There are no fake-out scares throughout the entire film, and that's particularly notable because even well-made horror movies will sometimes throw in a fake scare in order to break the tension and allow the audience to relax. But with this movie, there's no relaxing. There are moments of high action and low action, but the tension always keeps building. And even after the thing explodes, there's still a little tension left as MacReady and Childs stare each other down in the final scene. I think that's why this movie is hard for some people to get through, even if they can handle the gory special effects. It's not easy to keep tension going for 100 minutes straight, which is why pacing for a movie like this is so essential. Another highlight is the acting. Part of the reason we got 45 minutes with the whole cast is so that the movie and the actors can show their personalities, and over the remaining hour we get to see how their personalities change and break under the stress of the thing's infiltration. One of them immediately realizes the danger and destroys the helicopter and radio equipment so that the thing can't get away. One of them starts as a laid-back stoner, but becomes a big ball of nerves once he realizes what's going on. And one of them is the silent type who keeps to himself and to his dogs, but after the crazy one kills all of the dogs so that they can't be infected, he starts suspecting all of the others and eventually tries to stab MacReady. Then there's the special effects. The thing is often held up as one of the golden standards of practical effects, and it's easy to see why. A lot of money and effort went into creating the body horror monstrosities that the things become when they attack, including a whole lot of blood, guts, tentacles, screaming faces, and toothy maws. But that being said, the fakery of the special effects was pretty obvious to see, at least for a modern viewer of horror movies. CGI could have added to that realism, plus it could have also allowed the thing monstrosities to actually move around, which for the most part they don't. Still, CGI also would have taken away from the visceral thrill of shots like the one where an infected human forces his fingers right into another guy's face. Actor interactions like that are really hard to get just right with CGI, and as it was, a lot of the actors in the thing were unfamiliar with how to react to post-production effects. Now, if I had one major complaint, it would be with the expedition's equipment loadout. I mean, I can understand having a revolver or two on a scientific expedition to Antarctica. This was the early 80s, the Cold War was heating up, and the Soviets had their own expeditions on the continent. Even so, though, the base has enough shotguns and rifles to conduct a siege, and that just seems excessive, especially since the thing is effectively immune to bullets. If there were only 1 or 2 guns on the base, it would have made much more sense and had no impact on the plot. The flamethrowers are also kinda silly. I can understand the utility of using fire to get through a lot of ice quickly on an Antarctic base, but there are much safer ways to use fire than with a flamethrower. My other big objection would be with the all-male cast. The original story was all-male because it was written in the 1930s, but there were mixed-gender expeditions by the 1980s, and the movie explicitly takes place in 1982. Alien got away with a mixed-gender crew and absolutely zero romantic subplots, and I think The Thing could have done it too. On the plus side, The Thing features 2 black crewmen, and not only do both survive through most of the movie, one of them is even alive when the credits roll. Maybe. The analysis. The Thing and Alien have a lot in common. Both feature a small crew that encounters a hostile alien, and the alien kills them one by one until a survivor eventually kills it. Both movies also feature traitors among the crew, rising tensions, mental breakdowns, body horror, and computers that display important plot points in plain text. As such, the central theme of The Thing is pretty similar to the main theme of Alien, that being, beware of the unknown, for it will surely kill you. But there is a fairly important difference between the 2 movies, and that difference changes the meaning of the theme. In Alien, the crew is out in unknown space and explores an unknown ship for reasons they don't understand. In The Thing, the alien is on Earth. It comes to the American base, appearing to be a normal dog. It assimilates the crew members one by one, and it does this so perfectly that in some cases the infected crew don't even realize that they've already been infected. That means that the theme here is not to beware the unknown, but to beware the known. Beware what we think we know, because we could be wrong, and being wrong could kill us. Both movies are arguably a part of the cosmic horror genre. The creator of cosmic horror, or at least its first major author, was H.P. Lovecraft, whose Cthulhu mythos is notable for the fact that the great powers of the universe don't care at all about the human species. They have no opinion of us, either positive or negative, and whether they kill us or spare us, they give us no more thought or consideration than a human would about swatting a mosquito. This is just how the universe works, and humans are just an earthworm that got caught up in the gears. Maybe we'll get squashed flat, or maybe we'll survive. But either way, it won't matter to the gears. That's basically the same vibe you get from The Thing. The Thing from outer space wants to live, and so it infiltrates human bodies because that's what it does. That's how it lives. If humans think that this is disturbing, that's our problem. We might as well get angry at how pitcher plants capture bugs or how lions eat gazelles. That's just how it is, and our moral standards mean nothing. However, there is some inkling of hope in cosmic horror. If we humans are willing to set our morality aside and engage the unknown on its terms rather than our own, it is possible to understand it. We may go insane in the process, but we can learn about the unknown. And even if we can't or won't harness it, we can at least learn how it works and how to protect ourselves from it. That's often what the protagonists do in Lovecraft stories, and that's what MacReady does in The Thing. He doesn't figure out the thing fast enough to save his life, but he does manage to stop the alien and possibly destroy it. So to sum it all up, the theme this time around is beware the unknown and don't trust what you do know, for death can come from any direction. Thanks for joining me again for today's Threadbare review, and I hope we'll see you next time. Until then, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and if you have a little extra money to spare, you can support me on Patreon. Link in the description.